Welcome to Marketing Learn Chain, learning through a chain of snippets. The world is struggling today to cope with COVID-19 and its economic fallouts. Yet, there is one industry that is surpassing its own previous year's performance. 2020 being better than 2019, and you thought it applies only for the hand sanitizers market? Well, both Tata Consultancy Services and Infosys have reported healthier July, August, September quarter two profits for 2020 compared to their own performance of 2019. And this result is no flash in a pan. Let us take a broadside view of an industry that has redefined our times. The power of Indian IT industry. A quick snapshot of this industry in terms of numbers. The industry revenue is at 190 billion US dollars, which is 50% of the GDP of United Arab Emirates, 60% of Singapore, 75% of Bangladesh, 90% of the GDP of New Zealand, and more or less equivalent GDP to an oil-rich Qatar. The industry has been growing at an 8% cumulative annual growth rate over the last 5 years and contributes 7% to India's GDP. Remember that it employs only 0.07% of the total population. Simple math will tell you that the average productivity of this industry is 100 times better than the national average, which is to be expected. One more snippet for you. The annual income of a Tata Consultancy Services would be comparable to the GDP of our neighboring country, Nepal. I am splitting this video into two parts, genesis and forecast. The genesis of this industry starts from Lord Shiva himself and pans through men like Adam Smith, David Ricardo, C.K. Prahalad and Jack Welch. The forecast takes us on how we moved from legacy systems to cognitive systems, how we adopted inorganic as well as nonlinear growth, and how we focused on infrastructure. In India, outsourcing is not a new concept at all. Lord Shiva perfected the art of outsourcing years before Jack Welch took over as the CEO of General Electric. As Vaidyanathan, he is supposed to administer medicine, but does he? No, he doesn't. He has outsourced pharma to Lord Dhanvantari. And when medicines one day stop working, he is supposed to play the role of the ultimate destroyer. But does he? The answer is again no. He has outsourced last mile collection to Lord Yamraj. How does IT industry know these two processes today? They call it the business continuity plan and the disaster recovery plan, or in simpler terms, BCP-DR. Let us move from mythology to the early economic theories of Adam Smith and David Ricardo. Adam Smith, in his theory of absolute advantage, as propounded in the Wealth of Nations 1776, talks like this. The labor of manufacturing adds generally to the value of materials. The labor of the menial servant adds to the value of nothing. A country grows rich by employing a multitude of manufacturers. It grows poor by maintaining a multitude of menial servants. Any guess whom Adam Smith in his archaic language was referring to as menials? He was talking about people employed in service industry. Continuing his thought, he spelt that if a foreign country can supply us with a commodity cheaper than what we ourselves can make, better buy it from them so that we get some advantage. A delightful mistake about reading of services by Adam Smith, and India capitalized. 40 years later, David Ricardo, in his theory of relative comparative advantage, talked about opportunity cost and comparative advantage, which goes something like this. A doctor who can type faster than a secretary will still use a secretary. Why? Doctor uses secretary because his time is more profitably spent practicing medicine rather than mere typing. Extending that logic today to IT industry, US, which can telecall better than India, will still get it done by India. Why? US uses India because her time can be more profitably spent in value-added activities rather than telesales. Thank you, Adam Smith. Thank you, David Ricardo. In 1990, C.K. Prahalad defined 3 core competences for a corporation. 1. A competence that provides access to a wide variety of markets. Example, Google and data warehousing. 2. A competence that makes a significant contribution to the end product and to the end customer benefit. Example, Google and computing speed. 3. A competence that is difficult for competitors to emulate. Example, Google and ranking algorithm. What CKP was speaking was about core, but what the world heard was non-core. The core competence of the corporation is today considered as one of the most pioneering works in the area of outsourcing. CKP told A, world heard A compliment and outsourced everything that they thought as non-core. Finally, we come to Jack Welch and his 70-70-70 rule. 70% of General Electric's work would be outsourced. 70% of this would be done in offshore development centers, and of that, 70% would be done from India. Was it his authority, his process centricity, his perspective, his strategy? One doesn't know, but men like him laid the foundation for Indian IT industry. Moving from genesis to forecasting, the industry itself has moved up from legacy systems like your script-based process improvement tools, the mother of all software development life cycles, the waterfall methodology, good old mainframe systems, traditional application maintenance projects, traditional deployment on on-premise systems, usage of proprietary, incompatible and often non-scalable platforms, to cognitive computing, the world of DevOps, analytics, Internet of Things, augmented reality, blockchain. Our machines have started learning. Today we have started integrating solutions across multiple platforms like social, mobility, analytics and hybrid cloud. The presence of artificial intelligence, the presence of robotic process automation and a complete transformation of our workforce into a digital zone. All this has enabled us to reach that coveted mark of close to $200 billion in terms of industry revenues. The velocity of IT industry's growth is triggered by 2 vectors, growing inorganic and growing non-linear. Listen to the CFO of Tata Consultancy Services in a recent article on May 2020. He talks about COVID-19 being the best time for mergers and acquisitions because lovely bargains are available today in global markets. As far as non-linearity goes, almost a decade ago, the then CEO and MD of Infosys, Chris Gopalakrishnan, talked about non-linear growth. Today, some of the buzzwords in industry are non-linear revenue strategy, non-linear growth path, decoupling of headcount from revenue, etc. And these terminologies, these strategies, these approaches would catapult the industry to the next orbit in the coming years. In the 1960s and 70s, ace Bollywood comedian Mehmood created an iconic word, Ayo, which he used to pronounce as Aya, and films like Padosan and songs like Ek Chatur Nar took Ayo to national reckoning. Today, decades later, Ayo has again come back, and today it is infrastructure outsourcing. Gives us a flexibility of moving from time and material based, input based pricing to output based or outcome based pricing approach, a real time delivery, a mission critical response which will enable a higher dollar payment, partly driving the nonlinear growth trajectory, capability of going right up to hardware and device level where India is not really all that bad, and gives a level playing field against many big ticket US companies because of the possibility of silverization of infrastructure outsourcing. This author thinks that post-COVID, in a contactless environment, in a remote access environment, the fastest growth within information technology would be in infrastructure outsourcing. I conclude this video with a postscript on US presidential elections 2020. As we are all aware, presidential debate is now on in US and November will decide Trump or Biden. I am no political commentator to answer this question and neither is this channel interested. But whoever comes to White House, reclaiming lost manufacturing capability should be the top US priority. Service is second rung. Remember Adam Smith? Service is non-core. Remember C.K. Prahlad? So the next few US presidencies will focus on the reshoring of manufacturing. On the sidelines, Indian IT industry will continue to thrive and grow. Well, that was a quick 12-minute commentary about Indian IT industry from Marketing Learn Chain. Hope you like the snippet. The next snippet is coming soon. Till then, keep liking, keep commenting, and keep subscribing to your favorite channel. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.